Deflation versus inflation. Where is the US economy headed? 3 years after the onset of COVID-19, its impact continues to be felt across the world. And while the US is still in the process of recovering from it, progress has been made towards regaining stability and returning to pre-pandemic levels. Over the years, there have been countless discussions over where the economy is headed, inflation or deflation. While millions have witnessed and emphasized the presence of inflation in products and services, a significant number have raised fears about deflation and its possibility of crashing the market. In this video, we will review some interventions taken to improve the socioeconomic standing of US citizens, debatable assertions made about the economy and its projected course by concerned parties, and compare their forecasts to the most recent information and trends, deflation and inflation in the US. Welcome to Stock Genius, where investing in generating and deepening knowledge is the norm. If you're new to the channel, hit like and subscribe for more content like this. Now, we go back right into our topic for today. In an attempt to not relive and repeat history, the Federal Reserve and other policymakers employed a variety of monetary and fiscal policies to help stabilize the economy and prevent a potential deflationary spiral. In a summary encapsulated by AP News, the Federal Reserve has reduced its benchmark interest rate to a historic low near zero, where it had been for several years following the financial crisis. The Fed also spent trillions of dollars, considerably more than it has ever spent, to buy Treasury and mortgage bond in order to maintain short and longer-term interest rates as low as possible, in order to stimulate borrowing and preserve the economy. Moreover, the central bank has also announced a slew of measures aimed at ensuring a steady supply of credit, which is critical to the financial sector. Despite these efforts, concerns about deflation lingered for much of 2020 and early 2021 as the pandemic weighed on consumer demand and business investment. The consequent decline in economic activity has a tremendous downward pull on prices across the economy. With the numbers and hypotheses at hand, the Federal Reserve Banks of San Francisco and St. Louis were two of many that issued economic letters focusing on the risk of a large reduction in inflation and the potential of deflation. Their individual models, however, did not forecast the phenomenon over the next 12 months. Nonetheless, a sizable number of experts, policymakers, organizations, and publications saw deflation as a possible catastrophic side of the pandemic. Kathy Wood, chief executive of ARK Investment Management, predicted a deflationary season last 2021. There were several causes that prompted her to believe and conclude as she did. First, the slowing of M2 money growth from 27 in April to 17 in May of 2021. Second, the purchasing power of the US dollar has spiked up significantly, making it stronger when compared to other currency, which was deemed directly in contrast with the fear of inflation. That consensus was also consistent with the bond yields coming down, she further noted. Further, the last factor was drop in rates with a real consumption at negative 0.4%, durable goods negative 4.3%, and non-durable goods at negative 0.5%. All of this happened month over month, while the services consumption was only for 0.4%. However, it is vital to highlight that while these numbers and statistics are accurate, they are now a thing in the past. They were just first cited for us to see and compare the trends in the present status quo. While some experts predicted deflation during the pandemic, the US ultimately experienced inflation instead. According to the Economic Commission for Latin America, the United States has seen historic inflation since the economy began to reopen in 2021 following the COVID-19 lockdowns. In 2022, they published 5 charts that depicted some of the trends in inflation the country witnessed. This year, 2023, the emphasis has switched to varying levels of inflation, as statistics show that it reduced slightly in the early half of the year, but remains very high. According to the Consumer Price Index March 2023, summary from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the CPI for an all urban consumers, CPIU, increased 0.1% on a seasonally adjusted basis in March, following an increase of 0.4% in February. Before seasonal adjustment, the All Items Index gained 5.0% over the previous 12 months. The index for shelter was by far the largest contributor to the monthly all items increase. This more than offset a decline in the energy index, which decreased 3.5% over the month as all major energy component indexes declined. The food index was unchanged in March, with the food at home index falling 0.3%. The index for all products except food and energy increased 0.4% in March, following a 0.5% increase in February. Shelter, auto insurance, airline fares, household furnishings and operations, and new automobiles were among the indices that rose in March. The index for medical care and used vehicle and trucks were among those that fell in price during the month. The All Items Index grew 5.0% in the year ended March, the smallest 12-month growth since the period concluding May 2021. Over the last year, the index of all items excluding food and energy increased by 5.6%. The energy index declined 6.4% in the year ended in March, but the food index grew 8.5%. 3 years ago, with millions jobless, prices decreasing, and policymakers attempting to pull the economy out of a pandemic-induced slump, inflation seemed to be elusive. In the successful years, there arose increased unemployment and rising inflation, which placed the same people and agencies in deep contemplation and further study as to how it was all made possible in light of the distressing socioeconomic crisis. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen admitted that they missed their mark in defining the path inflation would take. As I mentioned, there have been unanticipated and large shocks to the economy that have boosted energy and food prices, and supply bottlenecks that have affected our economy badly that I didn't at the time fully understand, but we recognize that now, she confessed. With all of this said and done, it is critical that we recognize the diversity of causes at work that are causing these changes in our socioeconomic conditions. Many traditional economic indices have been thrown off by the COVID-19 epidemic, resulting in unforeseen fluctuations in inflation and deflation patterns. While some experts projected deflation as a result of decreased consumer demand and damaged supply networks, the United States eventually witnessed inflation, spurred in part of the government's stimulus program and as well as other factors, such as supply chain disruptions and increased demand for goods and services. Furthermore, economic data is always subject to change. The future trends may not necessarily follow these patterns. The pandemic has demonstrated that the global economy is vulnerable to unexpected shocks and disruptions, making precise forecasting difficult. As a result, we can predict what the future holds for inflation and deflation in the United States, but we can keep an eye on economic indicators and alter our expectations accordingly. So, what say you? With all of the affirmation storylines and figures about the economy, where do you think the United States is headed now? We would love to hear your thoughts. Together, we bring knowledge to new heights and depths. This is Talk Genius at Work. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more videos.